You know, it looks like I've been robbed. Uh, Especially if you saw last week's video. Welcome to the season finale. We're celebrating lots of things today. The first level of the estate is done being talked about, in the past at least. We are celebrating 1 year of this channel, so that makes today the 50th episode that I have filmed. So in season finales past, I've really broken them down into a before and after of all the rooms that we'd gone through of the whole house and just how it turned out after all the work. A brief Q&A of questions that had been asked, and then ultimately what the house meant to me. We're not gonna do that today, mostly because I still live in the house and I don't plan on leaving it, but also I don't wanna do before and afters again for everything that you guys have already seen. In previous seasons, I really didn't have anyone watching those apart from friends and family. So for everyone that's not a direct friend or family, thanks so much for watching. Today, I thought instead I would start by talking about moving in to this house, what that move-in process looked like. I've talked a lot about what it was like working on the house while not living here, but I've not talked about the flip side of living with my parents for those couple months and where all my furniture was existing and all that. So we'll go through that a little bit. I have a lot more questions that were asked this time compared to episodes past. And again, that's because there are more of you watching now. And I'm going to break those down into 3 sections. So there were questions that were more on a personal basis about me as an individual. There were questions based around design and how I design things and how I learned it and what inspires me, things like that. And then the 3rd section is more about my experience. So things I've experienced, what I have experience in, and my thoughts on a certain few things. So feel free to skip through any of those if you don't want to watch them. That's okay, it doesn't hurt my feelings. Finally, we are going to wrap this episode up today with where the channel's going. So why the room is empty behind me right now, what you can expect to see this summer, and just kind of how we're gonna restructure things going forward in general. And then finishing things off with a cherry on top of a sizzle reel of what's to come. Let's get going. Let's talk a little bit about when I moved in to the estate. When I moved back from Minnesota and moved here to Wisconsin, I was moving in with my parents. Well, one, I had to live with them for a couple weeks because I didn't own the house yet. I had, I think, 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks tops. Full well knowing that work on the estate was going to be very in-depth, as you guys have seen. While I was living with them, it was great. I love my parents. I get along with my parents very well. Apart from letting go of your independence to an extent, it was a great time living with them. I think going hand in hand with giving up your independence for a couple months is, you know, my cats had to live in my old bedroom with me there. They weren't allowed to have free reign of the house, and which is fair, and there was no issue with that. You know, they're old and ornery, and my parents have 2 cats of their own. It just wasn't going to be right to put my cats through the stress of 2 young cats and then to torment her cats with how mine can behave. My desk job is remote work, so I had my desk set up in my room, and I'd wake up at 5-ish and get to work, and my parents would leave the house around 10 to come here to the estate to work on things that I didn't need to be present for, and I would tinker away at my laptop, and I'd get the cuddles in with the cats, and you know, the days tended to fly by. Around 2:30 in the afternoon, I'd wrap up my workday and drive here. It's about 15-20 minutes between houses. I would do the handoff with my parents, we'd catch up for about an hour, and then they would leave. I would then work for a few hours. In the beginning of April that year, it got dark early, so I could only work really until there was no light left. We had a spotlight that we could move around in the house. It was a really glaring, harsh light, and to be frank, getting here at, you know, let's say I got here at 3 every day, by the time 7:30 rolled around, I was just exhausted. I was tired. I was usually hungry by that point and wanted to be done for the day, because that's a long day of mental work and then physical work. I would leave, drive home. I'd usually stop. I'm not much of a fast food person, but I would stop at McDonald's a lot and get myself a little treat, and then drive home to my parents' house, and then I'd probably eat leftovers there as well. Because that's, you know, if it's available, why not? By the time May rolled around, things were starting to shift. You know, things were picking up speed here at the house. The carpet was going in upstairs. Finishing touches were starting to happen on certain rooms. That meant paint was happening. Floors were being finished down here. And with all of that, it meant you can start moving some of your stuff in. Some days you wake up and you just decide it's gonna be a great day. And that is the end of the story. Also, I'm still no good at backing up, and it doesn't help this way, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Apart from my desk and clothes, all of my belongings were in a barn on my parents' property. They had a few large barns on the property. They'd been gutted mostly, and one of them is used kind of as like a big storage barn in a way. I don't know how big the tarp was. It might have been 20 feet by 40 feet, 20 feet by 60 feet. I don't know. We laid out this huge tarp in the barn, put all my stuff on it, stacked it. I was as organized as I possibly could be in terms of labeling everything because I didn't want to have to hunt stuff down. But I had started going out there and picking through things and, okay, what can I move now? What can I load up my car with to drive over and just start doing things? There were days where I would bring some lamps and Christmas decorations over, and then days as the kitchen was coming together, or at least being in a clean enough spot that I could start stacking things, I'd bring all the boxes of kitchen stuff over. And it just was everything you could move now meant less you were going to have to move later. By mid-May, I knew I was going to be having surgery on my hand. I was going to be hiring 2 men in a truck, and that meant they were just going to be moving furniture and the big things. Because I packed things the way I did not want anyone else to be responsible for breaking stuff. I wanted me to be responsible for breaking stuff because it was my fault with how I packed it. Once I started bringing things into the house, there was this renewed energy in me and a new life, because I was just excited that, not to like, ooh, I'm gonna get away from my parents. Excitement to be in my own space again, in the space we've been working so hard to get ready. Let the cats free and, you know, be able to walk around in my underwear if I wanted to, and just have a home again. The final week leading up to it was just this mad dash of getting the floor polyurethaned and painting upstairs and getting as much done as humanly possible, because the surgery that I was going to be having on my hand was not the normal carpal tunnel surgery. So normally you get the cut on your wrist here, they cut the band that creates the carpal tunnel, they slice it open and it essentially frees the nerves or tendons, whatever you want to call it, in your hand so you don't have pain from it. My surgery was, I'm not going to say experimental, it's just a new version of it with a higher success rate. I still didn't know how inhibited I was going to be from doing things. With a normal surgery, I think it's a few weeks of not doing anything. And with this, they said, you can go back to typing in 2 days. So got the surgery. In a short version, and not to make people squeamish, they poke a hole in your hand, they shove a needle down through your wrist, it comes out, put a metal thread through there that's got little teeth on it, loop it back, pull the needle through, whatever. That thread is now over your carpal tunnel, but there's no big incision. And then they like cut through it, and then it's done. It took maybe 5 minutes from poke to being finished, and that was it. And then you just kind of watch it heal up, and it, you know, it kind of bruised interestingly, and, you know, made for this picture of me with my shirt off that I was like, hey, your body's looking pretty good because you've been working your ass off for a couple months and losing weight. That's awesome. When move day came, which was just 2 days later, I watched the 2 men in a truck guys come up to the barn. I just kind of directed in general what they were going to be taking, and then I went and hung out in the house until it was time to go. And then I came here to the estate and waited on the front steps for him. I was just so excited and nervous also, because anytime, you know, your stuff is mobile and you're not in charge of it, I think, you know, I get a little nervous. Unlike when I moved into the ranch, where I was too nervous or shy to tell them where to put stuff because I felt guilty about telling them to take things down to the basement. Here I was just like, that's upstairs, that's this way, because I'd had so much time to think about it. The move-in went great. Then I went and got the cats. They're not great travelers. They get real chatty, and this big carrier, I refer to it as their apartment. They're just always together. They don't have individual carriers. And I brought them inside and scooped them out of the carrier and took this picture. And it is my favorite picture that I've ever taken of them, partly because of Paolo's face getting scrunched up that way. Interestingly, the gal that painted the picture of the manor, newspaper balloon, I reached out to her recently to commission this house being painted, and I'm using that photo with the cats as the reference for how I want to look in front of it. Once that's done, I'll share it here. It's not done yet. We're still in the planning phases of that. My first night in the house, I ordered Pizza Hut, which is my customary thing. It's just what I do because it's easy. First night in a new house is always odd and it doesn't feel like it's yours and you feel like someone's going to break in and kill you. No one did and hasn't and hopefully won't. That was moving into the estate. Now let's move into questions. We're going to start with the personal ones, and if you don't want to know any of this information, feel free to skip ahead to the next part. I did not write down names of who asked what because some people have names that are just numbers and some people I don't want to butcher the names. If you hear your question called, awesome. If you don't hear it called, I'm sorry, let me know and I'll get it at another time. First question is, what state did you grow up in? I grew up in Southern California. We moved to Wisconsin in 1997, but I consider Wisconsin home. Tell us new folks about Anixis. In 2014, I published my first book called The Anixis Chronicles, episode 1. I had started writing it 14 years to the day earlier. Over those 14 years, I actually wrote 3 books. It changed a lot in those 14 years, but the first book was published in August of 2014. The second book was a year later. The third book was, I think, 2 years after that. And then the fourth and final book, so episode 4, was published in 2022. They're all available on Amazon. I think the links are probably down below. My intent was to be a writer. My intent was to be an author, not a writer. I do love writing. It's something I'll never give up. I do love it. The first book did fine. It didn't buy me a car by any means, but the first book did fine. The rest of them, which the shame of the whole thing is that the books got better after the first, in my opinion. And that's probably because I was older when I wrote them. They just didn't do as well as the first one did. And my hopes and dreams of becoming a rich published author just died. I have nothing else to say about it. They just died. So the books are still available. You can get them in hardcover, paperback, on the Kindle, whatever your poison is. They're easy reads. That's Anixis. And then someone asked a while ago, and it's not one of these questions, but someone asked what my tattoos represent. And this tattoo specifically is from the books. It does something in a book. You'd have to read to know. And then this one does something as well. So you can know that. What is your skincare regimen? People get mad when I share this. I don't have much of a skincare regimen at all. Since I was maybe 13 years old, I use a bar of Ivory soap to wash my face and skin. And that's it, just Ivory soap. Every now and then I'll use like an exfoliator on my face from Jack Black. I will occasionally remember to put Neutrogena Hydro Boost gel on my face, and that's usually because I'm going to be sitting down to record for you guys. Otherwise, I am not good about using lotion or moisturizer. I'm admittedly not good about using sunscreen in the summer. I know why you should. I know that I'm probably going to look like rawhide in a couple more years. That's the skincare regimen. What is your day job? I work for a software development company, and I initially started with them as a technical writer. Technical writers are when you get a new software and you don't know how to use it, so you open up the how-to guide and it walks you through step by step, click here and then click here. And if you want to do this, you would click here and do this. That's what I started as. About a year in, I transitioned to being a project manager. I am the go-between for our clients and the developers, and I relay what the developers say to my clients and pose questions to the developers that they have. That's the basic of what my 9-to-5 job is. What is your favorite holiday, and are you planning on decorating for Halloween this year? First, yes, I am planning on decorating for Halloween this year. There will be several more tutorials this year than there were last, so I've got big plans for that. And then favorite holiday, that's a toss-up for me between Christmas and Halloween. It's probably Halloween. There's a lot more movies to watch for scary movies and stuff to get you in the mood, but I just love the Halloween aesthetic and vibe, and if I could live in a 24/7 rainy, cloudy New England town with, perpetual orange on the leaves and black cats running around and stuff like that, then I would be happy as a clam. Halloween is always like, I have to put it away because I have to get Christmas out. So probably Halloween. So now we're in the second section, questions that I felt related the most to design. First one being, where do you draw inspiration from in your home style? That depends. I pull inspiration from all sorts of things. That can be from something a friend has done to something I've seen in a movie. But really what it boils down to is things I've seen on Pinterest in the past. My Pinterest board goes back to probably 2010. Getting toward the end of living in the manor, I had purchased these cloches, putting little things in them. It gave me this weird kind of comfort, and I really liked how it looked. And as time went on and I researched what that look was, that was when I determined, oh, dark academia is your thing, because it's these little pinpoints of interest and you can mix in stuff that's arguably macabre with nice things and books. And I've talked about it too much before. Yeah, I think I'm getting off topic. The inspiration behind this house, it's just kind of an amalgamation of all things. You know, design is constantly evolving and I'll never be permanently stuck in one thing, but sometimes I'm stuck in one thing for a long time. What is your favorite room in your home you're most proud of? In the moment, it's the heart bathroom, just because that is the room that has had the most work put into it. And I'm just very proud of that work because it was very, very time consuming and difficult. The answer will change, and it's because of this room, because this room I feel is going to turn out to be just the coolest space in the house. And I can't give away much. I'm sorry. You'll see. You'll just have to wait and see. Okay, this is a long one, so bear with me while I read it. There are so many ways of thinking when designing and decorating a home. What is your thought process when you plan your design, and what do you want your home to feel like in the end? What do you want it to say about you, and what is most important to you? Style, trend, feeling, sustainability, practicality, personality, or perhaps escapism, or all of the above. I agree with that completely. You guys watching this, I would assume if you're watching this, you're drawn to the look of the people that, you know, exist in my real life, in my physical real life. The house looks one way, but it feels another. Creating spaces that feel a certain way is always my motivation. And how am I going to feel in that space? Conversely, for clients that I'm working with, I try to pull out of them, how do you want to feel in this space? And that's not with every client. You know, some people come with their own ideas and motivations, and that's totally fine. And I would love to bring them to reality. I think my thought process when I design is there's almost always one or two images that I have seen and saved that are what will kick me off. The fun that comes from it is seeing those images and then seeing other things that are completely unrelated that I like, and how can I incorporate that into the design as well and make it not just cohesive, but even more interesting than it already was. I am still that little boy inside who is rearranging his bedroom with all the things he already had, just to show my parents and my friends when they come in, look what I did with all this stuff. And that part never went away in me. So for me, it's still the element of surprise when people come over and I can be like, look at this thing, look how neat it looks. I don't think it's ever to gloat and be like, so I just did this thing, it's no big deal. I'm not a big promoter of myself or my work. I like to think I'm pretty humble about what I've done. But in regards to the other questions, you know, around style, trend, sustainability, all that, I always want my home to be practical. In terms of sustainability, yes, that's why I got the induction cooktop that I don't like very much, but that is why I got it. It was to be, you know, on the right side of where things are going. In the next year or two, the furnace and water heater will be replaced. I'm sure I will look into alternative methods than what is currently in the basement. I think in the end, what is most important to me is how comfortable is your space? And do you walk in and just feel like you see a chair and you want to sit in that? And not because the chair looks cozy, but because you want to know how you're going to feel sitting in that chair and looking at everything and just taking it in. Do you always use a mood board or inspiration board for every room you do? In this house, yes. Before, not at all. I'll do it forevermore, and I've done it for clients as well. It just helps me to hone in on things, and as I see these pictures and the paint colors being combined onto a page, it starts directing me a little bit more in what I want to do next. I think mood boards are very important for your own development in general. It's almost a great workshop to do one and just see what it kind of draws up in your mind. What are some of your favorite not for my house styles or designs? I do like mid-century modern. I don't like it in my own house. I have nothing against it. The scale of it usually doesn't fit with the scale of me, and I like old historic looking homes, and I don't like how mid-century design looks in these old homes. I know there's a way to combine, you know, Victorian architecture with mid-century modern. It's just not something I want to explore for myself. What brand of flameless candles do you use? The majority of my flameless candles are from Pottery Barn, but it is a company called Illuminara that makes them, and you can get that on Amazon through their own website. I feel like in general, Flameless candles have come pretty far. I think the only thing to note with them is typically you get what you pay for. My advice on flameless candles would be to pick a brand that you like how that candle looks and stick with it. The color of the lighting, the way the wicks move, or if it doesn't even have a wick, interior illumination, that's fine too. Pick a brand and stick with it, because those things can change so drastically that in a space you might have 3 brands of candles and they all have a different color, which immediately is like, oh, those are fake. Last section. So this one is on experience, things I've experienced or where my experience comes from. First question being, I want to know how you learned to do it all, not just what you did in the bathroom, but all of it. How much of this did you learn as you go? I learned almost everything as I went along. I'm still learning things as I go along. And some of it is from my dad, and my dad teaching me things he knows. With paint, it's been talking with the people at Sherwin-Williams and the internet, YouTube. It's a really great source of things. That's how I learned how to put the new flange in for the toilets. And currently how I'm learning to create the electrical map for this room, because this room needs to be completely rewired and I'm adding a ton of lighting to this room. Some of it is trial and error. I've messed up a lot and I've learned from my mistakes. And if I come across something I don't know how to do, it's not hard to learn. I know my limits. Right now my limits are plumbing, for sure. One of the most valuable things that I got from my parents is the can-do attitude. And that is translated into all aspects of my life. If you don't know how to do it, just figure it out. There are resources everywhere to figure stuff out. I wish I applied that more in school and in terms of a formal education, but I didn't. And here we are on YouTube. Can you do a tutorial on wallpaper hanging, please? I've never hung wallpaper in my life. In about a month, I will be hanging wallpaper right there. So yes, I can do a tutorial on it. And we're gonna fucking figure it out together, because I have a can-do attitude. What motivated you to become so talented at these kinds of things? Motivation is tricky. Some days I have it. A lot of days I do not. I think what works for me, because I don't always feel motivated to do stuff, I am annoyingly determined to see things finished. I don't like things that are left unfinished. So that's a big part of what motivates me. But to become, first of all, thank you for saying that I'm talented at this. I appreciate that. What has motivated me to learn this stuff, regardless of the level of talent that I exert while doing it, is that I'm cheap. And I really don't like hiring people to do things. And I especially don't like hiring people to do things that I am capable of doing myself. Do you have ghost activity in this house? 6 months ago, I would have told you no. Today, I will tell you yes. I'm not gonna expand on that. I will save that for the fall, specifically for October, but yes, I do. Have you heard from any of the prior homeowners or what they might think as to what they left you with and now seeing what you have accomplished? A little bit of backstory about the house. I know I've said it before, probably at the beginning of the season. The estate was purchased in 1952 by 2 individuals that were married. They already had a couple kids when they moved in, but they raised 7 children in this house. They remodeled the house in the early 60s, I want to say 1963, and in 1964. My sister, having gone through the Register of Deeds, found what those loans were for, and it equated to something like $90,000 to $100,000 in today money. So they did a pretty big renovation at the time. Whatever wall had been behind me that closed off this room was removed at that point. Of course, in the 80s, I've talked about it a ton, there was the fire that burned out the 2nd floor of the house, causing the whole thing to be remodeled up there. And then the kitchen was added onto at that point as well. And that was the last time the house was really touched. When I bought it, I really wanted to walk through the house with any of the surviving 6 children of the couple. The couple had passed and one of the kids had passed as well. None of them wanted anything to do with me, which I won't lie, it really bothered me, just because your parents owned the house for 70 years. 70 full years. I understand if it's too painful to walk through with the new owner and talk about the past. I understand that. What I learned in the subsequent months and years is that they just didn't want anything to do with the house anymore. They wanted their money and they wanted to go. I'll leave it at that. One of the kids who is involved in politics, I'll say that, came to the house that summer and stole rhubarb from the backyard. And I found that out from a neighbor, so there's that. And then a year after purchasing the home, the youngest left a letter in my mailbox saying that she would like to see the inside of the house if I would ever be curious about stories, which I was like, yeah. And it was a lovely walkthrough. It wasn't the most fulfilling because I did ask, you know, hey, if you've got any pictures from growing up in the house, what the house looked like in the past, any of that, I would love to see it. I would still love to see it. And she said that there weren't any, which, okay. Okay. There were some rooms she didn't really want to go into, one of them being my study, which was her parents' bedroom. I don't know if that's just from a childhood aspect of like that was mom and dad's room and you don't go in there. But that was when I learned a lot about the upstairs of the house and that it had formerly been an apartment and how the layout of it was arranged back in the day. Before she came, I had warned her the house looks drastically different from when you sold it. And she said, that's why I want to see it. I'll wrap this question up by saying that she and I stood on the landing in the stairwell and she cried, which I got emotional too, but she cried and just thanked me for taking care of the house and doing as nice of a job on it as I did, because their worst fear was that someone was going to buy it and flip it and turn it into a rental, because that had happened about a decade earlier on this street, where a lot of houses during the recession were snatched up and turned into rental properties and the neighborhood went downhill. Really, she was just, I think, most relieved for that, but just also happy that the house looked good still. It hadn't been destroyed. Was anything cut from the first two houses in the videos but you still wish we knew? I'm sure there was, and I know there have been things that I've thought about in the time since that I've been like, oh shit, you should have said this. I don't think it's anything huge. I know I've cut, from this house especially, I've cut a lot out because I don't want to consistently be like, hey, here's another 45-minute video like today's video probably is. They're not huge things. Last week's living room video, for example, there was a whole section on how I refinished the dresser that was under the big circular mirror, and I was like, you need to shave 3 minutes out of this video. No one's gonna care about this thing. There was something else in here that I talked about, I don't remember. Where did you learn all of your design skills? As a teenager, when trading spaces became a thing on TLC, I watched that all the time. Extreme Home Makeover, I watched that all the time. I just had this thirst for not even the design end of things, but the before and after and how drastically you could change the appearance of something. That was where it started. And then when I started working for Pottery Barn in 2012 as the associate store manager and then the general manager, you are the chief person behind the designers in your store. You're responsible for making sure that they are trained and then answering their questions when they have them. And from those designers, you just start gaining this level of knowledge, I guess. You just start learning the things that you need to look for. How are things made? How is wood joined? Is it just glue? Is it mortise and tenon joinery? Is it dovetailed? Like you start noticing these things and you start seeing the quality in things. I just think over time, as you see more and identify more of what you love, from color mixtures to furniture mixtures and all of that, you just kind of hone in on what to do, I guess. To date, which of your houses had your favorite room? Well, I can tell you right now, nothing at the ranch was a favorite room. I hated that house. Even looking back on it now, I hated that house. I hated every room in that house. So nothing there, and I hope that's finite enough. From the manor, the dining room with the big built-in and the way that my mirror fit in there because it was designed to fit that mirror. The walls that were Black Magic by Sherwin-Williams. The light that came in from the windows, especially once the patio had been put in outside. I loved that dining room and I did a lot of work at that dining table. And then here at this house, stay tuned. I feel like it's gonna be this room. It's tough to quantify because each room I see so many opportunities of how to make them better that they're in like a holding pattern. What is your favorite project? The one that makes you think, I can't believe I did that. Wow, I'm amazing. Well, you might think it was the heart bathroom. It is not. It is the stairwell behind me. Can't see it right now. I'll put a little picture up next to me, I guess. The amount of work that went into the stairwell, from tearing the ceiling out to expose all of the original walls and how high the stairwell actually was, paneling it on the scaffolding with a ladder on top of it. I can say that one is my favorite project now because of how much I hated doing it at the time, because it was so hard to do from a physical standpoint. It was really hard to do. So the stairwell. What is your biggest regret or something you would do differently? Honestly, my biggest regret is that I did not document more of this, that I did not film more of it, that I was too lazy to get the camera out to film. I almost started working on this room last night just because I wanted to and had to remember like, no, You need to film stuff. You need to film the room empty. You need to film before and afters. You need to do it in vertical mode so you can do those neat, like whatever the trending song is, and here's the before, and then, here's the after. The documenting more. That's my biggest regret. And that is my biggest advice to anyone that is starting any of this. If you've purchased a new home, if you are living in one, you're getting ready to start doing work, take too many pictures and videos. Take too many of them, because you can never go back once you've started changing it. You cannot go back. Once you have painted one wall, it's too late. Document too much. And if you think you're doing too much, do a little bit more. You will not regret it, I promise. And then final question. After working on an old home and putting your heart and soul into it, wouldn't you find it difficult to ever sell it? If someone offered you a good price, would you not bat an eye? Or would your attachment keep you from selling it? That is an amazing question, and it depends. I think for me, you do put your heart and soul into it. I put my heart and soul into it. And the key to your own happiness and your own well-being and mental health is knowing when to let go of things. That's what it has been for me. With the manor, I loved that house. It was my first love in terms of a property. I still think about things that I would have changed there and done differently. With what was happening in 2020 from a COVID standpoint, from my heartbreak after a relationship ended standpoint, and then from what was happening in Minneapolis in 2020, I needed to leave. I couldn't be in that house anymore. And it was hard to leave. It was hard to let go, but I did. It helped that I made money on it too, I won't lie. The next house, I hated it from day one. Could not have been happier to leave, but I was stuck in this situation and could not sell it. Couldn't sell it because of work and just my life in general. I was stuck there and in a rut. So when I had the opportunity to leave, out the door. This house, if someone came to me right now and said, I will give you $600,000 cash for this house right now, I would tell them no. I've not gotten the house to where I think it should be. I've not fallen out of love with this house, and I'm just not ready to say goodbye to it. If someone came to me and they're like, I'll give you $2 million in cash, I'm not gonna say no to that. And if you told me that you bought a house for $200,000 and you would turn down $2 million, I'd call you a big liar. Of course, there was a price for things. That's also like, what's the reasonable price? And no one would come here and offer $2 million for this house. For me personally, my heart has to be ready to move on before I'm ready to just take money and go. That's that. To wrap this up, what's coming? I've really structured this channel in terms of seasons, and I don't want to do that anymore. I've gotten tired of the format of talking about rooms that I worked on over the course of 2 years and not having a lot of video footage to show for them and just turning it into a show and tell for you guys. Going forward, this channel is going to be a little bit more project focused. In a couple days, this living room will be gutted to the studs. Every wall apart from the stairwell be gone. When this series premieres in May, so you're not going to see me in April, but in May, this will be 4 or 5 episodes of just the living room. And that's going to be broken down to a point where I don't have to cut stuff out for time. Of course, you guys can turn these off whenever you want. Maybe some of you turned it off right now, and that's fine. But for this living room, it'll be an episode just on the design and why I was looking over there like it was a lens. It's not. The design, demolition, that might be 1 or 2 episodes. Reconstruction, making it pretty. The detail work. I mean, but it might end up being 6 episodes. I don't know. The point is, things are going to be more project-based, and I want to be up. I want to be up and doing things and showing you guys and hands-on and not just talking about in theory, here's this thing I did and this is how I did it, but you don't get to see that. In addition to those, we're not done talking about this house. I have not shown you anything that has happened outside. I've not shown you anything upstairs. I'm not showing you the basement. Those videos will still happen. It's just not going to be every week because it gets dry. We've got the living room coming, that whole series. Then we're gonna start going outside. We're gonna be talking about the outside projects. It might not be a full summer of outside projects from the past. Like I'm putting some sort of a patio in this year, and I'm moving doors on the garage, and I'm building a fence. Things are just going to start being truncated in a way, in terms of I'm not going to pigeonhole myself or shoehorn myself into, well, we got to get through these 10 episodes of old stuff, and then, maybe I'll do something new. We're not going to do that anymore. I want to be loose and free with you guys. And if there are things you guys want to see me do, I'll do them. That's what's coming. And I just want to say, over the past year, the first 8 months of this channel were very quiet. And that's okay. It's fine. The first 2 houses, it was very quiet. Halloween set the channel up. Christmas launched it. Thank you to everybody that has signed on for the journey and has been following and asking questions and wanting to know more. It's been a delight. It has been a challenge. It's been more fun than I thought it would be, and it has been a million times harder than I thought it would be. I don't regret a single moment of it, and I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to continue doing this for and with you guys, and for myself, because at the end of the day, it's for me. Thanks so much for watching today. Thanks so much for watching the season. If you have questions or comments on anything you saw today, please leave them below. I'll answer. You can reach me on Instagram at restoring_Sean. I will be posting some stuff through April there, so you might be able to see some glimpses of what's happening in the living room. Otherwise, you can find me on my website at restoringsean.com. You can find out things I do there, services that I offer. If you want to work with me, reach out. I'm happy to work with you. That being said, here's a little sizzle reel of what is to come. And until it does, we'll see you guys around. Take care. Be good. Bye. Sweat in my eyes and I can't wipe them. It burns. It burns us. There's a FedEx truck outside and I don't know if it's for me. Oh, it is for me. Ooh, the FedEx man is coming. It's not often that it's an attractive delivery driver. Oop. I've got a front door snooper. Thanks, Alexa. He is cute. All right. Anyway,